Best mates for closing time. Best mates, but you're not a friend of mine. Best mates for closing time. Best mates, but you're not a friend of mine. They are the bars on your seats, on your strap, on accident. Say I'm Mark and I don't care. Kiss them here, you want that? I know you like, don't have clue. If you're paid, so you. Best mates for closing time. Best mates, but you're not a friend of mine. Best mates for closing time. Best mates, but you're not a friend of mine. They are the bars on your seats, on your strap, on accident. Say you're Mark and I don't care. Kiss them here, you want that? I know you like, don't have clue. If you're paid, so you. Best mates for closing time. Best mates, but you're no friend of mine. Best mates for closing time. Best mates, but you're no friend of mine.
The Threats, Beer Zone and Urban Scum were all part of a gig organised by promoter Retford Dave. Beer Zone decided to pull out and, more importantly, Urban Scum had just split. Smell decided this was too good an opportunity to waste, and in his own words, decides to assemble a bunch of reprobates. He dropped the bass guitar and replaced it with a microphone. I was pretty useless at it, he later said. Our theory is that it was easier to take to rehearsals. Who would he choose next? Cos was the obvious choice. He first picked up a guitar in the 1980s, eventually learning to use real strings in a back room located in York, playing along to the likes of Bananarama, Rick Astley and the Peters, Pete Doherty, Pete Tong and Pete Seeger. Many bands wanted his one-chord excellence, but he went his own way and helped form the now infamous Super Zappa Recharge Operation button with the rest of the Macca clan. They had gigs that included the renowned Spotted Cow, which is now a restaurant. The band eventually split up, due in part to him learning a second chord, so he grabbed the next rung of the stool and joined Harrogate punk rockers, the Mad Chihuahuas. They went one step further than Super Zappa and played a gig at Bradford Rio's with a proper Peter and the Test Tube Babies. In fact, Super Zappa vocalist Scott drank Peter's last can that night. He wasn't best pleased. The Chihuahuas were Yorkshire's top punk band at that time and went into the studio to record the well-remembered Punkers Fuck tape. CDs hadn't been invented back then. Members of the band eventually moved away from Harrogate, so the band faded away also, although unofficially the band hasn't split up yet. The Paunch Star was now in history. Next up came second guitar. The choice for this was made slightly easier due to the fact Smell was dating them at the time. And who was this choice? Danny. The only history we have is that she really wanted to be in a band, and this was one of the reasons Booze was formed. The backline came in the form of an old school friend by the name of James Harry, a former drummer with the band Flush Bucket. Bass was added by Smell's younger brother Tom Keeley, bass player with a blues band called the Bluebirds and an AC/DC tribute act known as Powerage. Tom agreed to play just this once, and after 2 practices, though we're led to believe it was just one, the gig went ahead. As Tom couldn't commit to the band full time due to previous engagements, in came ex-Stuck Up Vacants guitarist and old friend from school, Byron Ward on bass. Byron also wrote many of the guitar riffs for the band. They played a few gigs with this lineup, including a benefit gig for Cos and Jules' daughter, Kia, alongside the Angelic Upstarts. It was also around this time that Booze became the Mighty Booze, the Mighty being added as it looked good and sounded cool. It was never a copy of the TV show The Mighty Boosh, as many people seem to think. Eventually, Danny and Smell decided to call it a day, amicably of course, and so she in turn left the band. This called for a drunken excursion into town. Picture the scene. You're in Cert 18, it's a punk ska with a bit of new wave thrown in night, and there's some dodgy old geezer playing 7-inch singles, and you're wearing a Subhumans t-shirt, when you suddenly hear, "Alright Chief, nice shirt." Smell had just found a new second guitarist, Steve. After a few more pints, they swapped phone numbers, then Smell and Byron went to Fibbers for some boobies. Prior to joining the Mighty Booze, Steve had been in a ska punk band known as Strange Arrangement. At the time of writing this, no music was available, due in part to Steve telling me they got no further than drinking and playing in studios. Yet from this band came the tunes Coppers, Shit Scared and State Control. And so he joined, as it sounded like a laugh, and he couldn't wait to jam and play live again. James Harry was the next to leave, due to work commitments. He couldn't have chosen a better time, the day of a gig at Cert 18. This is where Cozzy's brother Neil stepped in at very short notice. Neil began his career in the mid-1980s, influenced by a local drummer known as Trev Stone, from the band Impact, a band with which he would one day sing the track Dead Cities by The Exploited. This led to his first band, Dead Zone, which got no further than a loft, a garage and a greenhouse. At least the neighbours were now pre-warned that there might be a little noise for the next 23 years. After a small gap to learn to play, a new band was formed, The Plague, a well-known goth punk band at the time. This band didn't practice, they rehearsed, with rehearsals taking place at the long-gone Clifton recording studios. They played gigs at all of York's top venues, the Winning Post with its 1 kilowatt sound system, the Spotted Cow with its immense stage and dance floor, and the Arts Centre with a stage so high that aircraft would interfere with his cymbals, supporting the likes of Love from Alice, the Rednecks, and everybody's favourites, Mr. Rambling Johnny Stomach Pump and the Lonesome Pine Strangers, or the Village Idiots as they were more commonly known. He would join them for one song at live gigs to play the track Wild Ting, a reggae version of the Trogs hit. They gained many friends and quite a following during the years they performed, releasing a 4-track demo in May of 1987 and having a gig review in the York Star, sister paper to the Evening Press, in July of the same year. But times changed and the band decided to part company.
Wondering why you stand at the window, why you start to cry. This is Friday the 13th, and the day feels nothing to you. This is Friday the 13th, and there's nothing you can do to me. And I see you standing at the window, and I'm trying to think what you will find.
At the final gig, Neil was asked to join a new band, thinking it would further his career. It didn't. The band, known as Rufus Moons and the Critters, got no further than a few practices, as it wasn't really his style of music. The phone calls were now flooding in for other drummers, so Neil had to wait a while before being asked to join rock band Two Ways Up. They practiced for quite some time and released a 2-track demo tape recorded over a weekend at Clifton Recording Studios. Unfortunately, Neil didn't get to gig with the band as the Queen asked him to stay at one of her houses, so they went ahead without him. When the Queen decided she'd had enough of him, things went quiet for a while, with only an occasional jam session with his brother Cos, which led to Super Zappa Recharge Operation Button being formed. It was some time later that he went to see Cos's new band, Urban Scum, practice. He liked what he heard and asked for a go on the drums. A few days later, he was asked to join Porno, Smell and Cos. But things went badly wrong during a gig at the Junction. The bass drum kept walking, and Mr. John Smiths told him to walk out with it, so he did, leaving the band mid-set and vowing never to play again. That is, until he received a phone call. "Can you drum for the Mighty Booze?" he was asked. "Sure," he said. "When do we practice?" "We don't," came the reply. "We play live tonight at Cert 18. He must have impressed someone that night because he joined the band full time. The lineup was to change yet again, and Steve swapped his guitar for a bass, as Byron had obligations with the indie rock band My Salvation. This became the classic lineup that played most of the gigs to date. That is, until Steve also left, or rather, took a time out due to the band being drunk and not playing too well most of the time, a point which was proved when it came to recording the Booze demo. Jim Nastic of Flint and Side A was called in to record the session and also played bass while Steve took a break from it all. The drum tracks were laid down and the rest of the band met at Jim's studio at a later date to record guitars and vocals. This failed miserably as the band became drunk and in the end only Coppers and Best Mates were released. Steve's point had been proved, but the band continued on regardless. This almost became a problem before the Battle of the Bands contest at the Winning Post. The band had no bass player, and in the end, it was Byron that saved the day, joining an hour before the band were due on stage. It seemed as if nobody wanted to play bass for the Mighty Booze. Would this be the end of them? Well, no, of course not. They recalled Jim Nastic once more to play a benefit gig for ska promoter Paul Willow's brother, supporting the Ska-Billy Rebels. It was one of their finest moments, playing to around 250 people. The band was back on form and spirits were high. There was only one thing left to do: plead, beg, grovel, and try to bribe Steve into returning. And he did return, in time to play the only out-of-town gig that the Mighty Booze ever did, the Mixing Tin in Leeds City Centre, supporting the Coma Cats. The lads played their hearts out that night, making it one of the best gigs ever. Mighty Boo's roadie and good friend Rich Maltloaf Maltby was also there as cameraman, but due to drunken misuse of the camera, the band were only left with memories and a few short clips of them in action. Gig offers were now flying in, and the band were booked to play in Harrogate, but it never happened, as they decided to split. Some would say unexpectedly, citing all sorts of reasons: too short notice, no money, can't get time off, not being drunk, it'll cost too much. The excuses were many, so we'll let you make up your own minds. As one final act to say thank you to all their fans, followers and friends, they reformed to do a farewell gig at Cert 18, which turned out to be another success. Had the band finally pulled together? It was too late to find out. During the final encore, Neil left his drum kit to join Smell up front on the mic, with Scott, the last member of the Mighty Booze, taking his place to play If the Kids Are United. And united they were for one final time, not just with each other, but with each and every person there. And for that, they thank you.
Stop it, Neil! Taft's filming you!
It's all mine!
You'll get
No.
caught!